Altman, the Big Game Hunter, and this is the American Headhunter podcast and Google Hangout. You see, what I do is I simulcast my podcast onto Google Hangouts as a way of reaching out to more folks, getting it onto YouTube. Uh, Having been in recruiting for as long as I have, I learned a long time ago that recruiting is a tough business. It is a field where very few firms, very few candidates really appreciate or care about the difficulties that we're involved with. So what I try to do is take a few minutes on a Monday morning to try and set the stage for your work week. Uh, Being a headhunter will always be hard. It will always be difficult. And will always have a lot of pain associated with it because everyone is posturing for advantage and no one is particularly forthcoming with us, which is really what this show is about, is how to read the tea leaves that will allow you to recognize and act on the fact that people are not honest with us. So before I go into the show, let me just simply say this episode is brought to you by consultingassignments.com. That's a site where you can find and fill consulting assignments, full-time consulting positions, temp to perm and contract to hire opportunities anywhere in the world, completely free. Posting a job or a resume is free. Searching jobs and resumes is also free. The ability to contact one another is free. The only thing the site will charge for is if you're going to feature a job or a resume. It is $10 for 30 days. And the price goes up if you're going to feature, the price goes down if you commit to doing more than one ad. So again, consultingassignments.com. So here's the situation. You get a resume and you do what most of us are doing these days. You go to the LinkedIn profile. You want to see what's consistent, what's inconsistent. And you notice that there are dates that are completely different. You notice an employer that isn't on the resume that's on the LinkedIn profile, or vice versa. It's on the resume, but not on the LinkedIn profile. When all is said and done, I know people sometimes forget the exact dates that they work somewhere, but consider it a signal that there's something more that you need to investigate, because intrinsically, I don't believe any of these things I'm going to talk about are grounds for immediate rejection. I think they're grounds for further investigation and letting you know your candidate or your client is not as well prepared as you might like them to be. So let's say you have a LinkedIn profile and a resume. They don't quite match up. There's an extra company in there. Let's say it's on the profile and not on the resume. What do? Real simple. In the course of your standard interview with this person, you might slip in there and say, I took a quick look at your LinkedIn profile. How does such and such company fit in with your background? Now, if there's an awkward silence, they lied. They were trying to hide something and you exposed it. See, to me, investigating is the more important thing rather than just simply, rejection. They lied, they this, they that. I don't believe in instantly rejecting something that could be $25,000, $50,000 to me. I want to know more. So often people say, well, that was actually a consulting assignment that fell into, and they start telling me where that assignment is reflected in their resume. On their profile, they cause it to stand out. Bizarre, but people make mistakes. Don't you make mistakes? So the idea is to investigate. The client says something to you, and then a week later says something very different. Are you going to throw the client out? I doubt it. What do? A week ago, you told me such and such. Here we are a week later. I'm hearing something that sounds a bit different. Could you clear that up for me? Clear that up for me. It's basically trying to get them to treat you like a partner, like a valued individual, rather than simply accusing them of being liars. You see, one of the things that as recruiters we always have to cultivate is a finely tuned bullshit detector. Excuse my language there. We need to really cultivate those qualities and see whether it's our own paranoia, because as recruiters, we develop paranoia. We're very fearful of losing the deal and losing that commission check we're investing so much in. And don't get me wrong, because we only hear half the story and like to think it's the whole story, we're the cause of a lot of our own problems because we don't investigate further. So it's important to always ask when your BS detector goes off to see what's wrong, what's right, what's working, what's not working, what the current truth is. And notice my language there, the current truth is, because that truth could change a week from now, because many times we're dealing with people without the authority who are telling us things that they believe with absolute certainty, and we believe them. So our fault for not maintaining a degree of detachment, but this is the impact of it. Another scenario that we run into way too often is the unreturned phone call. So on the candidate side, we've got in, they're about to get an offer, and suddenly we're not getting calls back, or they're monitoring our calls. Now, one of the obvious little tricks is call the person from your cell phone, because you know they're watching caller ID, seeing your number come in, and they're saying, "Oh, don't want to talk to them yet." Why don't they want to talk to you yet? They're waiting for word back about another job. They're talking to their own boss who's proposing a counteroffer. Any number of things that basically means all your time invested is going to go down the toilet. What do you do? Real simple. This is one of my favorites. Because the reputation our industry has is that we don't give a shit about anyone, right? We just want the money. And we do want the money. We work real hard for what we get. But, job hunters, clients, they have complete disregard for the search profession. And as such, we're viewed as mercenaries, we're viewed badly. I'm not going to repeat all the stuff. So what do you do on the candidate side? The candidate isn't calling back. Answer. You call them up and you say to them, "I've been trying to reach you. Are you okay?" Now, how does anyone not respond to, "Are you okay?" Because you're now expressing concern for them. You're worried about them. "I've been trying to reach you for a couple of days. I haven't heard back. Are you okay?" It evokes images that you're worried about them like they're dead in the street somewhere. And as a result, most candidates will surface at that point, so you can start the conversation with them. I'll get to that in a minute. On the client side, you're about to get an offer, and suddenly they're not calling back. Okay. There, I'm a little less, I'm a little more cautious about what I say. But I'll simply say in a voicemail, if they're not responding, "Hey, it's Jeff Altman. You gave me the idea I'd be getting the offer by now. Bring me up to speed. What's going on?" My number is. I always leave a message. I always leave my number. I don't know if something's up for you, but want to make sure you're okay, and just getting an idea of what the status is. And again, what you're trying to do is flush it out. Now, if it's a client that you know real well, you've done years of work for them, trust me, the one thing you want to be careful about is not being so overtly friendly that they suddenly get pissed off because they're hiding something and you're calling them out on it, and thus they wind up dismissing you and your firm altogether. Now, having made that mistake as a rookie many years ago, you don't want to lose a client because you're assumptive that they're your friend. They are not your friend. They are a client. And as such, you need to always have that degree of professional detachment with them while trying to draw them in and create familiarity and trust for you. So it's a fine line that you always walk, but at the end of the day, it's an important line for you to walk. So, what you're trying to do is to flush them up. Call me. Just bring me up to speed on what's going on. My number is, or call my mobile. The number is, however you want them to communicate. You reach out to them and invite them to get in touch with you because you're concerned. Another thing people do way too often is, they hold back. So, for example, you're doing a candidate evaluation. You're doing your first interview by phone with them. And you're in a situation where you're talking with them about what they've done, getting a sense of the background, and you, like every good recruiter, says, and where have you been on interviews so far? And you discover that, well, they tell you about one or two places, and then from there they say, that's it. And then you reach out and discover your client is one that they've already interviewed with. What do? The next time you have reason to call, and I'm not saying you go out of your way unless you're really pissed off, and then even there you present it in a guarded way. Next time you speak with them, you very simply say, they're going to go, so what's going on? And you'll say, well, I want to represent you to a couple of my clients, but the first one I reached out to you didn't tell me you'd already been there. So it makes me stop and ask the question, what else haven't you told me so far? So rather than going through a lot of accusation, I'd rather just simply tell them, you told me about two places. I've already discovered a third that you interviewed with. Where else have you interviewed? Well, that's it. How do I know that? Because the last time I asked you that question, you told me about two and you skipped such and such firm. Where else have you interviewed? Because if I find you lying, I'm going to tell you point blank, you can go to hell. So you want to surprise them because, frankly, there are lots of candidates out there. There are very few that are so indispensable to you and your client that you can tolerate someone lying to you. Once you catch the lie, you got to call them on it. You got to call them on it because they're going to think that they can get away with this crap all the time. So call them out, not rudely, but directly, firmly, intently, to see where else they've been on interviews. Because all of these things taken together don't mean anything per se, but all of them taken individually suggest that you've got a liar on your hand and someone who doesn't trust you sufficiently to allow you to do a great job. And that's really ultimately what you're looking for. On the candidate side, you're doing everything you can to get ready to close the sale. On the client side, you want to build a relationship. And if they're holding out, that's not a relationship. That's you being the stalker and them going, hold back. So those are a couple of things I do. And I just want to say that, as I wrap up, if you found any of it helpful, I've got a lot more on my website. So if you go to thebiggamehunter.us, again, that's thebiggamehunter.us, and click the tab on the top that says American Headhunter. There's a lot of articles and videos I've done to help you be more effective in your role doing recruiting. Watch them, read them, listen to what I do. It's all designed to help you. Also want to say, if you want coaching from me, if you want advice from me, there's a way that you can reach out to me and schedule time for recruiter coaching. Maybe you have a deal that you're concerned about and you want some input. It's a very modest price for getting a second opinion. Like if you go to a doctor and they say you need surgery, do you go to another surgeon and get their opinion, or do you just rely on that one doctor? Answer, if you're smart, you get a second opinion. So that's what I offer, second opinion services designed to help you close more deals. So I'm Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter. I hope you enjoyed today's show. Hope you have a great day. Take care.